Participation in today's town hall. We'll give everyone a minute or so to join the call before we get started. Okay, and to start the evening, we have a Menti word cloud. You can participate and add your thoughts by logging on to the menti.com and entering the code you see on the screen right now, 9221-4858. You can also use your phone to take a picture of the QR code that you see there, and it'll take you directly to the word cloud. The question is, what do you appreciate most within your role or your connection to childcare? I'll give people a few moments to log on to the meeting, to Menti, and to get settled. Okay, so let's get started. Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for joining our discussion today. My name's Patty Boyle, and I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister for Childcare in the Ministry of Education and Childcare. I'm also joined this evening by our Deputy Minister, Christina Zacharek. Hi, Christina. And we have a lot of staff here supporting us behind the scenes today. So before I begin, I'd like to take the time to pause and respectfully acknowledge the Lekwungen peoples, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, on whose territories I'm grateful to live, work, and play. And as I acknowledge the lands that I'm joining you from, I have to say I'm so pleased to see the Quetlao flowers or the purple camas flowers that are blooming, especially at Beacon Hill Park here in the Lekwungen territories. But as we're joining this meeting today from all across the province, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on the territories you're calling in from today as well. We're pleased to have you all join us for the first ChildCareBC Town Hall hosted by our Minister of State for Childcare, Minister Mitzi Dane. And tonight we're focusing on sharing appreciation for the amazing childcare professionals throughout the sector. You should be seeing now the Menti word cloud come up, and we'll be able to see what people are appreciating about childcare. So I'm starting to see a few words like the workforce, happiness, commitment, impactful change that we make. Oh, a really great one, family connections, and growth as well. Really great to see those coming up, such nice words. So the format for this town hall, everyone, is a bit different than previous town halls. Minister Dean will share a few opening remarks, and then we'll proceed through 4 main childcare themes. Minister Dean will introduce each theme with program updates and success stories, and then we'll open it up to questions on that particular theme or topic. We're using these themes to help organize the evening, but we know that childcare isn't separated into distinct categories. Everything's really connected. And at the same time, we also understand that many pieces of childcare are enriched through their uniqueness, which we see with things like distinctions-based approach to Indigenous-led childcare. So tonight's themes are just a tool to help us bring our attention to 1 or 2 main ideas at a time. So before we begin, I'd just like to give you a few housekeeping items. AI-generated closed captions are available, and you can activate them by selecting the closed captioning button that's at the bottom of your screen. I want to let you know that this town hall is being recorded, and it'll be made available on our ChildCareBC engagement website next week. So within each of tonight's themes, you'll be prompted to submit your questions through the Q&A function on your Zoom toolbar, where you can also upvote other questions that you want asked. We'll ask the questions most popular within each theme, though we may skip over some of the questions if they're repeats or not related to the topic, but we'll try to come back to those questions if they're related to another theme as we go along. And due to the volume of questions we're asking, Minister Dean may not be able to answer all the questions today, but we'll keep a record of your questions. We'll also provide contact information for our ministry at the end of the session. But during this session, we encourage you to ask questions about the childcare themes However, please note that the minister will not be able to answer questions about specific facilities. If you do have a concern relating to your facility, we'll let you know at the end of the session how you can reach out to the ministry. So I'm still seeing lots of great things coming up on our Menti about what you appreciate most within your role or your connection to childcare. I think seeing the kids grow is a great one. Laughter is a great one. Working with families is great as well. You can see it filling out, which is really great. And I think those words really speak to our work, to the work of early childhood professionals, the work that they do day in and day out. So thanks to all our early childhood educators across BC. I know there's lots of you on the call with us today, so thank you. And without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our Minister of State for Childcare, Minister Mitzi Dean. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you so much, Patty. Hi, everybody. Good evening and happy Childcare Month. I'm actually speaking to you from my home today, which is on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and that protocol is really important to me of recognizing territory, especially because I represent Songhees and Esquimalt nations in the legislature. I also represent Chianu Nation as well, a bit further west from here. And thank you, Patty, for pointing out that we have people gathered on lots of different traditional territories across the whole of the province this evening. And thank you, Patty, for moderating. And thank you so much to all of the staff that we have on this call and all of the work that has gone into making this a success and getting it set up for this evening as well. It's a really great opportunity for me to connect with so many people this evening. I'm so honoured to be the Minister of State for Childcare here in BC. I know how important this programme is. I talked to my colleagues at the Cabinet table and in caucus about how our investments in childcare are making a difference in other ministries for the economy, for jobs, for women, and also for education and children's outcomes, and also in every single community where we're putting money back in the pockets of parents and supporting the workforce as well. This is my first ChildCareBC town hall, and it's really exciting because it's focusing on the importance of childcare professionals, which I think is a really great way to start the early stages of Childcare Month and to celebrate Childcare Provider Appreciation Day, which I'm sure you're all aware is tomorrow. I really look forward to your feedback and your questions, and this is a really important time of the stage in our Childcare BC plan to be having more conversations about what's happening, what's happened, and where we're going from here as well. I know everybody is really busy. Everybody has, you know, work and family and other commitments. And so I really do appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts, your reflections, and bringing forward some questions as well. So, you know, please do participate as much as you're able to wherever you're joining from in the province. So I do want to focus on appreciation for childcare providers as well, and express my sincere gratitude for the dedication and the hard work of childcare professionals. I know that what you deliver is compassionate, wholehearted. I love seeing the Menti, what your values are and what you really appreciate about doing this work. And I see it when I go around and visit childcare centres. I really see the learning opportunities, the appreciation for the children, and the appreciation for the teamwork as well. And you know, every moment is a teaching and a learning moment, and the children are always so happy wherever I go and see them playing and interacting with you as well. And of course, we know that this supports families because it means that parents have choices. If they want to retrain, if they want to go back to work, it actually gives them choices in the family as well, so that they can actually pursue other opportunities for the family as well. And that all has a ripple effect across our communities and across the province as well. So the value of this work really can't be overstated. And I know that it can be long hours, it can be demanding. Sometimes you feel like you're doing stuff off the side of your desks or in your personal time as well, because I know how dedicated this workforce is. And I know it's been a challenge as well, attracting people, keeping people in this profession, which, supports everybody else in being able to stay in a healthy way in this profession as well. And we know that there's more to do, and we want to be able to do the best that we can to support the whole of the workforce. I have actually been responsible for an early learning and childcare centre, and it was actually in a high school as well. And this was quite a few years ago. But it means that I do know the nuts and bolts of delivering early learning and childcare, interacting with the ministry, and how stressful it is to manage the staffing, especially because there are so many bugs around as well. One of my rules is to make sure that I sanitize before and after when I do visit a team in an early learning and childcare centre as well. But we all thank you, everybody in the ministry and myself and all of our staff. Really thank you for all of the effort and the dedication and the commitment that you bring to early learning and childcare for our littlest British Columbians. So as Paddy mentioned, the rest of this evening is divided into themes. So we're going to start off with quality and inclusive childcare, and then we'll have Indigenous-led childcare, then access and space creation. Oh, there it is. And I'm sure you can read that, affordable childcare. And so our first theme is quality and inclusive childcare. And we know that we can't achieve our childcare goals without an educated, qualified and growing workforce as well. And an essential part of our work in building childcare as a core service is making sure that that service is high quality and the care that's delivered to our children at such a formative time in their lives is the best care that they can receive as well. So we need to make sure that our professional workforce has access to the education, the training and the support that they need, and also to make sure that you're recognised and that the work that you do is seen and is valued as well. In March, the Early Childhood Educator Registry put out a survey for past, present and prospective ECE students and practicum student mentors in order to better understand their needs and challenges, any barriers and successes in accessing recognised post-secondary ECE programming. And we actually received over 1,000 responses, and that provided really incredible feedback for the team. So I really thank everybody who participated in that, who shared the link as well, because receiving this information is really vital for us to be able to continue making improvements and making sure that we're continuing to grow that recruitment and retention as well. And as you will know, we have increased the wage enhancement from December the 1st, 2023. So that is now at $6 an hour. And the median wage for ECEs increased to $29 an hour, up from where it was in 2017-18, which was at $18 an hour as well. And I think you'll also know that in January, infant toddler educator or special needs educator certificates, the specialised certificates, also became eligible to receive the annual ECE specialised certification grant as well, because we know that we need to recognise childcare professionals already working in the sector that have one or both of these specialised certificates, and also encourage other people to take these specialised certificates as well. I know from within the sector there's been a consistent call for a wage grid, and I know how important that is for recruitment and retention for professionals. And so we're currently testing the first iteration of that. And that does include funding for benefits, paid time off and professional development. And we're testing that at some select $10 a day ChildCareBC sites. And so we'll be able to evaluate the wage grid and the other aspects of that as well to ensure future operational funding models are really well designed and really do support that concept of high quality, stabilized workforce and really excellent services in this core service for children and for families as well. Now, I know, especially having come from the sector and the ministry I was working in before as well, that families who have children with support needs face really unique challenges, and we are absolutely committed to making sure all children have equitable access to inclusive childcare and are supported in learning through play alongside their peers. So we are actually working to finalise an inclusive childcare strategy that will provide guidance for current and future ChildCareBC initiatives, and that will strengthen inclusion and equity of access through all publicly funded childcare initiatives. We know that childcare professionals are working really hard to provide inclusive childcare programs and sometimes need support to enable all children to fully participate. But we know so many centres are being so successful as well. So there's a early learning childcare centre in Burnaby that's actually turning 50 this year, which is amazing. And they've introduced a lot of different extra programs like a hot lunch program, and making sure that for families who don't have extended family, they're able to kind of access grandmas and grandpas from within the community as well. And making sure that they accept all children with all needs and that all of the children can be learning and cared for together as well. They receive actually many referrals from the BC Centre for Ability, and all of the children in their centre access really high quality care, and that benefits all of those children. So thank you to you all, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Minister Dean. Our first question really is about, when we will see a provincial wage grid, and you touched on that and talked about how we're testing at some select sites. So thank you for doing that. I think that testing is going well. Is there anything you want to add to that at all? We also have Cal on the line if there's anything else you want to add. But I was just wondering, is there any thoughts you have on the wage grid and any more you want to add to that question?
Yeah, government has committed to testing the wage grid, and really this is one component of the operating funding model. We need to look at the overall model of, what does quality, inclusive, affordable childcare actually look like, and how do we support a stable and good quality workforce in order to be able to deliver that service as well. So maybe, Paddy, I can ask you and your staff just to give a little bit more technical detail on the timeline for that and what people can expect to see and hear.
Sure. Cal, would you like to just give us a little more of a timeline?
I'm definitely happy to. So everybody, my name is Cal Parmer, and I'm the Executive Director responsible for the Operating Funding Model Implementation Branch, bit of a mouthful, within our ministry. And the question around timelines for the model itself, which the wage grid is a part of, is 18 months from the time that it started. So it did start back in December of 2023, and we're running this test all the way up until the end of May 2025. And so what this means is we're going to be gathering all that information in terms of how the money has been spent from all the funding that we've been providing, how the wage grid is working for folks, gathering tons of feedback with monthly reporting, as well as some qualitative reporting we're going to do through some focus group sessions as well, just to understand better how the wage grid's working for folks. And then after, at that point, we're going to have the time to analyze and roll it out. Timelines are still to be determined, but the test will end at the end of May this year, or sorry, not this year, 2025.
Thank you so much, Cal.
Yeah.
And thanks to you and your team for the work that you're doing on that. Minister, the second question today is, will the ministry be looking at the quality of ECE training?
Actually, that is something that we're looking at. There's different dimensions of competences, training, evaluation, ongoing professional development as well. And so that's some ongoing work that we are having a look at. And of course, as we go through that, we'd be really interested in getting feedback as well. It's really important that we provide that supportive input as well. We need to understand what's the scope of different aspects of training, because we do have different roles and different positions that can be working in this field. I don't have to tell anybody on this call about that. And we also have introduced prioritization for the provincial nominee program for internationally trained professionals to come into British Columbia as well. So there are a lot of, we're probably going to say this a lot this evening, but it's kind of complex. The system is very diverse. It's really just kind of evolved, and we're really trying to pull it all together to make sure that we've got some cohesion in order to achieve our goals, which are for affordable, accessible, good quality, you know, as a really core service, early learning and education. So there's not going to be just one solution to achieve that, and there are lots of different dimensions and aspects to the whole system that we need to be working on. So for sure, that's one of them.
That's great. Thank you very much, Minister. And the next question we have is, if you can answer this one, when will the inclusive childcare strategy be ready to implement?
Well, we need to finalize it first, and then we'll have a timeline for implementation. Again, what we need to do is make sure that we're supporting facilities and operators in order to achieve that. We don't want to just issue something and leave people and then they're not supported in making sure that they can achieve it. So Patty, you might have a staff person who's got a bit more of a clear timeline on that, but we need to make sure that we do it in a really supportive way, because we want it to be successful. We have to do it in partnership with MCFD because they have some of the resources there as well, and really support the sector in making sure that we can achieve that.
Yeah, and I don't know if Teresa, thank you so much, Minister. You had a really good answer there, and I think maybe Teresa wants to add a little bit more detail to our about our inclusive childcare strategy. So over to you, Teresa. And I think you're on mute.
I sure am. Sorry, Patty. Yeah, we've been working for some time now to develop a strategy that's really going to help set the foundation in childcare about what inclusive practice should look like. How will the province be supporting childcare providers and early childhood educators to access professional development supports, access resources, and really make sure that the services and the childcare that we are supporting is truly inclusive and welcoming for all children of diverse abilities. So as the minister mentioned, we are in the final stages now, I'm happy to say, and we are at a place where we are just reviewing, taking in the input that we've received from external partners, and then we'll be hoping to release the strategy in the coming months. So look for that on our website, and we'll definitely be sharing information through our regular communications as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, Teresa. I know there's been a lot of good work done on that, so really appreciate it. I think the last question for this section, and then we'll have to move on, Minister, is will there be additional resources put into the department to, so I think means into our division, to assess and approve ECE and ECEA applications to the BCECE registry? And we have Shannon on the call too, if you need some extra support with that question. But will there be additional resources put in to assess and approve ECE and ECEA applications to the BC ECE registry?
Yeah, well, I think what we've seen definitely since 2018 is a gradual increase in the number of registered ECEs. And of course, we want to support that. We need the workforce in order to increase the spaces, and we want to expand this as a core service. So we know that we need to continue investing in all of the different aspects of early learning and childcare. And so, you know, that will be part of our ongoing budget building work that we do regularly in government. But happy, Patty, for Shannon to jump in as well.
I think that's a really great answer to the question. Is there anything you want to add to that, Shannon?
Yeah, I can add a little bit. I think that, you know, as the minister was saying, with the increase in the availability of childcare spaces and the growing workforce, it certainly does put pressure on the registry. And we are working to improve the system in the registry. And as a matter of fact, I believe that, well, I don't know if anybody on this call in particular, but some of our ECE workforce, our providers, have actually volunteered to do some user testing with us on a new IMIT system that we're developing to streamline and automate the process and really improve timelines for applicants during the process. So, you know, we're building that out. And I think actually when you go to the ECEBC conference later on this month, there'll be some opportunity for you to test that on site. So show up there and you'll see a little bit of what we're working towards, and we'll be excited to roll it out. Not tomorrow, but soon.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Minister Dean and I will be there, so we're going to have to test it out ourselves as well. So, so Minister, and just thanks to everyone for sending in your questions. We really appreciate it. But our next theme is Indigenous-led childcare. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Minister, to say a few remarks about Indigenous-led childcare.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, obviously a priority in our plan is a commitment to ensure Indigenous children and families have full and equal access to all of the enhancements that we're making to childcare. And we also need to be supporting a distinctions-based approach to increasing Indigenous-led care for First Nations, Métis and Inuit families as well. This is really important work. Our government is absolutely committed to the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. And all of us as ministers are responsible for making sure that we really illustrate how we're doing that, and we've held a number of webinars to consult with First Nations title and rights holders, as well as Indigenous organisations like Métis Nation BC, the First Nations Health Authority, Aboriginal Head Start Association of BC, and we continue to engage with First Nations leadership as well. So, you know, we're looking at enacting a new piece of legislation, the Early Learning and Childcare Act. And of course, the standards under DRIPA really expect us to make sure that we're doing proper prior informed consent and consultation with Indigenous peoples as well. So we've also hosted a series of regional in-person engagements as well. And we really want to hear about what the priorities are for Indigenous communities, Indigenous peoples, you know, what the ideas are for Indigenous-led services in early learning and childcare as well. And, you know, how do we make sure that all childcare is culturally based and culturally safe? And how do we support that Indigenous-led core service as well? We did actually last year and then again this year create a round of grants for First Nations of $35 million to support them in what their priorities are. And it's such a lovely thing to hear the report back about all the different opportunities that First Nations identified in their community of how they could spend that money in order to support their programming as well. And I really appreciate hearing from Indigenous communities who are already delivering Indigenous-led childcare as well, and making sure that it's very responsive to their vision for their children as well. So One Nation has told us about introducing a language and culture team and making sure that First Voices support is available so that children are really embedded in their culture and able to learn language as well as part of the early learning and childcare too. So thank you so much for bringing us to this point, Patty. Happy to take questions on this.
Okay, thank you, Minister. We're not seeing any Indigenous specific questions in our question and answer, but still have a few on inclusion. So we'll continue that for now. So what are some of the upcoming ways, Minister, you're looking at increasing access to supported child development programs to increase access for children with disabilities? And I know Teresa's on the call too, and you can turn to her, but what are some of the upcoming ways you're looking at increasing access to supported child development programs to increase access for children with disabilities?
Well, you know what I'd really like to say here is, and Patty, you'll know this from all the briefings that we're in together, whatever lens we're applying, whatever briefing I'm in, we always still talk about inclusion. So whether we're talking about the new design guidelines that might be about the physicality of the building, or we're talking about the partnership work with MCFD, or partnership work with education as well, we are always applying this lens as well and saying, so what about kids who have support needs? What about kids who have sensory needs, neurodiverse needs? And for us, you know, we feel like we have a certain mandate and certain scope for our responsibility in the ministry for families. They want a seamless service for their children, regardless of which ministry in the government is delivering that. And they want the transition from each different stage to be really seamless, especially for children and youth with neurodiverse needs or support needs as well. So I know that we've had these conversations when we've talked about all the different initiatives and the different plans and strategies. So it's something that is continually evolving. We're continually having discussions about, and we need to think about the work that's going on elsewhere in the province, like the framework for children and youth with support needs as well, to make sure that we're learning from other areas of work, and that we're really thinking about how do we work together and make that transition, make the delivery of services the most successful for those families.
And that's one thing, Minister, that I've really noticed in briefings with you and in presentations that you do. Inclusion is so close to your heart. So I really appreciate your answer. And I don't think Teresa and I have anything really that we could add to that. So thank you so much for that. Okay. And I think, Minister, we don't have a lot of extra questions, so we're going to move on to the next topic now. So our next theme is access and space creation. So we're going to turn it over to you to make a few remarks, and then I think we'll have time for more questions.
Well, thank you for that. And I raise my hands, and I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much to the previous ministers who have really championed this role. Katrina Chen and Grace Law really understood the value and the importance of building out this as a core service and did so much work. And so we've made really substantial changes since 2018. But, you know, we know that families still struggle, and the access to affordable, good quality, inclusive early learning and childcare is still, you know, really difficult to find across the province. I have families in my constituency who commute for childcare and then commute for work, and that's really stressful. That really impacts quality of family life. It's really not good for the environment either. And what we're seeing at the moment is, because families now see it as an option, because we're making it affordable, then there's even, we're a victim of our own success. So we're seeing an increase in the level of demand as well. And I hear that from CCRR centres all around the province as well, that so many more families are thinking, well, you know, actually, I would like the option of going out for retraining or going out and getting some work and accessing some affordable early learning and childcare as well. We have actually funded 33% more spaces, meaning that so many more families have benefited from affordable, good quality, inclusive childcare. But as I say, we know the demand is out there and is increasing. The recent new Spaces Fund intake actually closed in the beginning of February, and we've continued to do our analysis and evaluation of all of those proposals. We got so many. It was an unprecedented amount of interest in the New Spaces Fund. And what we've done recently is we've actually updated the guidelines. And so those were released on May the 2nd. So they're available on the website. And we will be opening up a new stream of funding in a short while from now as well. We've also changed the approach for school boards to be able to apply for new funding as well, so that it's a more streamlined process. And I'm hoping that people on the call are aware that we actually aligned the CCRR centres with school districts. So we're really looking at that seamless approach of early learning all the way through to the K-12 system as well, and wanting to make that as seamless as possible for the children, and really benefit from that opportunity of being part of the school community and improve that transition into the school community. And we're continuing to build spaces on school grounds as well, because we know that will reduce parent stress. That actually encourages that transition. It encourages the routine, and the experience for the children themselves is much improved as well. And we're really thankful to our school district partners for working with us on this really important program of making sure that we increase early learning and childcare spaces, and as well increasing before and after school care as well. And again, I know from my community that that's a real demand and a real issue for children and youth who are in the education system but still need that care so that their parents can go to work or do their retraining as well. And the CCRRs are working just working really hard and building those partnerships, and I want to express my gratitude to them as well. I mean, our sector has so many people that are pulling together. It's just really nice to be able to express appreciation for everybody, especially given that it's the Childcare Provider Appreciation Day tomorrow as well. So, we have been hearing from service providers about how beneficial it has been for them to be able to increase the number of spaces, knowing what the level of need is in their community as well. And so we've been hearing from different childcare providers about how they want to make sure that they actually can increase spaces at the same time, bring in that workforce that's needed, and make sure that the services are affordable as well for parents, and make sure that they're accessible for parents as well. And many of the service providers and operators, given the experience that they already had, because we've been able to introduce the New Spaces Fund, they've been able to really actually build on their expertise and build on how they build their teams, and how they keep their teams, and how they motivate their teams, and how they can create that floor coverage that we know that is needed. And so I just want to say thank you to all of those providers who have been able to really increase the spaces that they're able to deliver and build on that experience that they've got. Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Minister. We do have a question here. So our first question on this theme is going to be, how are you working with municipalities and their zoning rules to create more spaces more easily?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And as I say, like this sector is full of so many different people and players, and there are many things that we're doing across the province in order to build those partnerships and try and find ways to make it easier for municipalities to actually provide those approvals as well. The other thing that we're doing as a province is every time we build something, we have a look at that and say, okay, can we put childcare in there? And how can we actually fund some childcare spaces if we're building a hospital or a school, or we're supporting some other kind of a facility that's actually being built with provincial capital. And then again, we have that experience of working with municipalities, working in partnership with municipalities as well. And so it's a really good question, and it really raises and highlights the importance of how many people are involved in this. And municipalities themselves, I mean, certainly my local ones here, but as I travel around the province as well, I know municipalities know how important childcare is. Business, the business community knows, the economists know how important it is. The municipalities know how important childcare is, and making sure that childcare is inclusive and affordable and accessible. It needs to be convenient. It needs to be, where parents want it to be, either close to home or to work or to school if they've got other children. And so I think there's definitely a lot of partnership going on in order to make sure that we can really grow the sector and build capacity.
That's great, Minister. And I know you've had a chance to meet with a lot of municipalities, and I also want to do a shout out to our community development team. You know, Michelle Kirby and her team do a lot of work with meeting with municipalities and helping them to plan. And we also have our early learning and childcare leads and our CCRRs, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
out there to really help people in this space. So thank you for that question. Next question, Minister, is what are your plans for a childcare capital budget to fund a planned expansion of spaces? So what are your plans for a childcare capital budget to fund a planned expansion of spaces?
Well, we do have targets. We definitely want to be increasing spaces with our agreement with Canada. We have targets to increase the new spaces, and we've been increasing spaces in $10 a day centres, for example. We have, under the new Spaces Fund, funded something like 38,000 spaces. At the same time, we've increased the number of licensed spaces across the sector as well. So making sure that we're not losing spaces, and that we're increasing the quality and their engagement in the rest of our programming, because for the spaces who become licensed, then they can access our affordability measures, and of course that's passed straight on to parents, and that makes it affordable for parents as well. And we're making some tweaks to the programming. As I said, you know, we now have a new way for school districts to be able to apply. We've just done the evaluation. We'll soon be making lots of announcements about the spaces that will be opened up under the last stream of the New Spaces Fund, and then we'll have another stream of that as well. So it's ongoing. We need to keep going. And you know, one of the challenges is the escalating costs that we all know about. We've been hearing about that with many big capital projects, or you know, local developments in community. And you know, what we know is if we delay approvals for building new spaces, the costs are only going to go up. So you know, it's really important that we actually really do some good analysis around the proposals and make sure that they are able to deliver our vision, which is, you know, good quality, inclusive, affordable childcare. And we really appreciate the response from the sector, because we've had so many applications, and you know, we can't do it without those. And you know, we really want to make sure we're investing in those community assets and building those partnerships in the community.
Thank you, Minister, and I totally agree. We're seeing such an increase in our applications, and that's really great to see to our New Spaces Fund. I just wanted to acknowledge for everyone on the call that there's a lot of questions, and for our minister as well, there's a lot of questions coming in about licensing, Minister. And licensing, as we all know, falls under the Ministry of Health. So we're unable to answer those questions. We continue to work closely with our colleagues at the Ministry of Health. And I know, Minister, you've been here just for a few months, 4 months or so, but I know you've already had some good conversations with your colleague at the Minister of Health, and many more to come. So just wanted to acknowledge that for people that we can't answer those questions tonight. Those would be referred on to the colleagues at the Ministry of Health. But we do have a question here, Minister. What do you know of any initiatives to bring universities and teachers into outreach spaces, bringing the education service to them? So what do you know of any initiatives to bring universities and teachers into outreach spaces, so thereby bringing the education service to them?
Well, one of the things that we have done that I know that I have friends whose kids are involved in this, is the dual program, so that even when you're in high school, you're able to actually get that training and get that experience, as well as while you're still completing your high school diploma. So I think we need to have a look at different models like that. I've heard that has been really successful, and I really I think that's a really great idea. And once we've had a look at that and done some analysis of that will probably provide us with more information about how the universities might be supporting that, or how we might work with the post-secondary sector to look at, okay, how do we take this another step further?
And in that online, those online programs and that type of thing, really important.
And we have the pedagogists as well. So that was really great to hear about that, how the pedagogists go in and support that learning in early learning and childcare centres too. So there's some really great practice out there that I'm really excited by.
That's great. And I want to let you know, Minister, that we have a late question on the Indigenous themes, so we'll ask that now. One big challenge we have on the Sunshine Coast is people leave for a semester. When they do leave for a semester, they can lose their housing spot if they stay on site. So, you know, that's a challenge for folks on the Sunshine Coast. If people leave for a semester, they can lose their housing spot if they stay on site.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that you want to comment on that one?
Well, I just think, you know, to everybody out there, please share with us the unique situation that you might be in, so that we can actually mobilize some support there and have a conversation and see if there are any solutions. Because, you know, the solution might not come from our ministry, but it might come from another ministry that we can actually partner with. So I think, you know, please just keep us informed. You know, we don't want to hear about barriers out in community, and I'm sure if we all pull together, which everybody seems to want to do, because everybody understands the importance of this, you know, this core program, then let's find some solutions. And who knows, once we find a solution for one community, then it might be something that actually is beneficial to apply to lots of other communities.
Yeah. And I think, you know, just thinking about those programs and the online programs, there's lots out there that can be done, but we know that Seashell really has some unique issues that we know, because you have to catch a ferry there and all of those sorts of things. So it really, thank you for that question. So the next question we have, Minister, is why is the private sector still not allowed to access the New Spaces Fund?
Well, we've prioritised our investment into community assets. So we know the province is actually building a lot of community infrastructure. So we're building schools, neighbourhood learning centres, hospitals. We're investing in post-secondary education. These are all really great opportunities for also saying, and what about childcare? You know, there are frontline workers there, or residents there, you know, investing in housing. I know there's a lot of housing and you know, residential services where we could actually add to that investment and put childcare in. We also know that investing in, for example, non-profit organisations, Indigenous communities, you know, other government supported and community based organisations, we know that that's creating a community asset. And so that's where our focus is lying with the capital investment. At the same time, of course, we want to work with the private sector. We also still have the grants, the startup grants, to help private businesses actually reach licensing. We also continue to work with and support and really appreciate our partnership with private businesses who are licensed in our operating funding and our affordability measures, because so many families do access early learning and childcare through a private business or a for-profit organisation. And so I really appreciate everybody working in partnership with us. And we've got over 96% of early learning and childcare providers have opted in to our programming. And what that means is they're supporting parents in receiving the funding coming back, whether it's the childcare operating fee, we're going to get into this in a minute, but childcare operating fee, the fee reduction, the $10 a day, the affordable childcare benefit. And some of these, you know, will add on to each other, so that some families are paying nothing. And many families are paying less than $10 a day, even if they're not in a $10 a day program. And the really great thing about that is that that really supports families, and they can then invest in an education bursary fund, or out of school activities or just different choices for their family. And what I really love about that is most of the time they're going to be spending that money locally. And so that really enhances the local economy as well. So, you know, it's a way of making sure that we can support the whole sector, work with the whole sector, and get those benefits through to the children and families.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Minister Dean. And you're seeing what I'm seeing is some of our themes kind of cross over, right? But our next theme tonight, Minister, is affordable childcare. So I'll turn it over to you for a few remarks, and then we'll take some questions.
Well, you know, childcare was just getting out of control because it was left to market forces. And it was just becoming so not affordable. And then that meant that families didn't have reasonable choices, didn't have access to early learning and childcare. And so we have different programs in order to make sure that the costs of early learning and childcare are brought down for families. So for example, we have the $10 a day program, and we actually introduced another 930 spaces into that program just in March and April. And so we now have 15,000 spaces province-wide that are in the $10 a day program. And that's through 27 different, that was 27 additional childcare centres. And we're going to increase that to 20,000 spaces by spring of 2026. And our vision is to have a $10 a day universal model across the province for all families as well. But we do have other affordability measures. So we have the Childcare Fee Reduction Initiative, which provides up to $900 a month per child in fee reductions. And that is available at over 128,000 spaces across the province. The Affordable Childcare Benefit provides up to $1,250 per month per child, and that's supporting over 35,000 children on average. The Aboriginal Head Start program serves at the moment 1,700 children. That's going to increase and expand, and that is absolutely free. And across the province, over 144,000 families are accessing one or more affordability measure that's bringing down the cost of their early learning and childcare as well. And so if you think about it, the average fee in 2017-18 per day, per child for under 12 childcare was $45 a day. And I have friends who are still paying off debt because they put their children into childcare because they wanted to pursue their career. And now it's gone down from $45 a day to $18 a day. So we are on our trajectory for reaching $10 a day as well. And, you know, again, I want to say thank you to the providers and express my appreciation as well, because, you know, the operators need to apply and opt into our programs as well. And the vast majority of the applications we've received have actually gone through pretty seamlessly this year. And then that, of course, turns into benefits for families and for parents as well. The other thing that we've done to increase affordability is we've actually said that you can't charge a fee for a wait list as well. So again, we knew that lots of families the families who could afford it would put their children on lots of wait lists, even though there was a fee, and so many other families wouldn't be able to afford it. And so, you know, this increases access, it increases equity, and it increases affordability as well. So I know that, again, the operators actually also see how that really benefits families. It's interesting that in the word cloud, people, you know, really prioritize those relationships with families, and so, you know, really thinking about the affordability measures and what's important for families. And there was some feedback that we were provided with. For example, being part of the $10 a day program is making a difference for our community and our families to be able to access such affordable care. we have a great partnership with the $10 a day program and are happy to participate in it. And another one said, I can't tell you what this means for us to be a $10 a day ChildCareBC centre. I sent out word last night to the new families and they are so happy. And having done some $10 a day conversion announcements, I know how happy the operators are and the frontline workers are as well. So thank you so much, Patty. Over to you for any questions.
Thank you so much, Minister. Affordable childcare covers a lot of topics, but our first question here is, what's the plan to expand $10 a day specifically for centers that got the new spaces funding to create new childcare spaces? And the second part of it is, will there requirements to operate for a minimum of 1 year before they are eligible to apply to become a $10 a day center change? So what's the plan to expand $10 a day specifically for centers that got new spaces funding to create new childcare spaces? And will the requirements to operate for a minimum of 1 year before they're eligible to apply to become a $10 a day center change?
Yeah, so we do have different eligibility criteria. So the way that we evaluate, for example, the applications for new spaces funding, we have different eligibility criteria, and the same for $10 a day as well. And part of that is informed by what we know is already happening in those communities. So, you know, we actually want to have a look at the gaps and have a look at the needs as well. That might be based on, you know, the workforce. It might be based on $10 a day spaces. It might be based on spaces available in the different age categories. So for each stream of applications, there's a lot of different lenses that are applied in order to make sure that we're really looking at coverage around the whole of the province to make our vision of quality, affordable, inclusive childcare available and have that whole system and that core service around the province. We have to build it in a way that is incremental and that's going to be successful, and that we're learning all the time. And so we're applying all of those lenses. Patty, I think there's probably more that can be said in a technical response about the timeline.
I think Teresa's on the call as well too, and I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Teresa.
I think the minister really covered it really well, so I don't have much to add, sorry.
That's great. Thanks, Teresa. One more question, I think here, Minister, I'm looking at our time. What's the purpose of the benchmarks within the childcare fee reduction initiative? And the person that's asking this is noting that some operators struggle to be sustainable. So what's the purpose of those benchmarks within the childcare fee reduction initiative?
Well, it is really important to make sure that we're passing the savings on to parents and families. And what we do is a very real-time, realistic analysis of what the actual costs are in the region, and then we support operators in setting their fees in a way that is very reflective of the local community and the local regional area. Of course, the ministry is happy to talk to individual operators because we want to make sure that we've got as much childcare available as possible, but we want to make sure that those savings are being passed on to parents. And we talked a little bit about the operating funding model earlier on, and what we want to do is be really clear about what we want to support as the core basic services, and then make sure that it's really transparent for families. Well, that, you know, what you're paying for extra is for these extra other services. And so that's still work in progress, but we needed to put some of those parameters in to make sure that that services, you know, we're starting to bring those services together to make sure that we know what the core services are and what the true costs of those services are. And really the absolute majority, in fact, you probably have something to say about this, but most operators come in absolutely within the benchmarks, and it's been really quite a smooth transition this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, you know, I just want to add in that our policy team also you know, takes a lot of time to look at these benchmarks and are reviewing them all the time. So just want to give listeners out there the assurance that that's something that we do. And Minister, we have run out of time. So noting that time, we're going to have to wrap up today's town hall. I think you and I could talk forever, but just a big thanks to everybody for your valuable questions today. We know we weren't able to get to all your questions, so we put our ministry's email up on the screen. And please know that you can reach out to us anytime through our engagement email. And if you have any questions specific to the ChildCareBC programs, please call us and our staff will be happy to help you. You can also learn more about what's new in the ChildCareBC through our website. And I think all of you know about our bulletin newsletter. The information for those is also on the screen. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Minister Dean, for some closing remarks.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. I know you're really busy. Thank you for the engagement and for the questions and for raising other points as well that I know that staff will take back and we'll have more conversations about. Thank you for joining us during Childcare Month, and tomorrow have a really wonderful Provider Appreciation Day. Please know we're thinking of you. HCare.